Welcome to Hot Hero Sandwich with Leonard Nimoy, Donna Pescow, Richard Pryor, and Sally Struthers. In conversation with Tom Cottle.
I still have very, very strong and deep and rich memories of the rituals of being Jewish in the neighborhood, particularly the high holidays.
Was the Passover supper a happy time?
Yeah.
That you had good feelings about? A fattening time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was nice because we had anywhere from 15 to 30 people. And it was the 4-hour Seder, the whole Geschrei we did.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and it was nice. It was I've always liked family. I've always liked people around. I mean, there are times I really want to be by myself. But I enjoyed that, and that was a big part of my upbringing.
Thanksgiving was the best. Christmas was Christmas, you know what I mean? Everybody gave. But Thanksgiving seemed true, the most truest day. I mean, because you eat and laugh, and people would get together, you know, and talk and eat and I listened to my family, and they seemed to love each other. Thanksgiving Day, something about Thanksgiving was the favor.
The most predominant memory for me is the one of total confusion as to why my parents would split up when I'd never heard an argument, when I didn't see that there was any problem at all. And I knew my mother was madly in love with my father, and I felt that it must be the same way coming back, and sure would have helped to hear one nasty argument or something.
Do you think, Sally, that somehow people kept you from knowing the truth and therefore forced you into making up reasons for that divorce?
That's it. I think that's it. I was small for my age physically. I was the baby of the family, and I think relatives and my mother and even my sister, who knew more than I did, didn't want to tell me what was going on because maybe they felt I couldn't handle it, because I was a sensitive little creature. And it's the old adage of, you know, what she doesn't know won't hurt her, but not knowing what's going on is actually more painful. If there are parents listening right now with their kids, you know, tell them everything. Then they can deal with it.
Would you go to church?
Yeah, I went to Salvation Army Church. They were nice people at the Salvation Army. Now, they seemed like people from another planet, the people at the Salvation Army to me. They had these uniforms, and they weren't real people at all. Because I'd never seen them out of the uniforms. If I had, I wouldn't recognize them. You know what I'm saying? But the Salvation Army people had this uniform on, and they would go out in the worst districts in the world and stand on the corner and be, Jesus loves you, this we know. Kind of winos would come out, bling, drop stuff in there. Jesus loves you, beat the tambourine. And they had the cleanest skin, right? They were white people. They had that weird skin. It was just too clean and just zip. You know, they were just weird people to me. They were just very fascinating, you know, the Salvation Army.
Hot Hero Sandwich will return after these messages.
We now return to Hot Hero Sandwich.
Could you be angry when you were small? Could you really get angry?
Oh, I could explode like anybody else and argue and scream and yell and cry, but that doesn't get it. You don't feel better necessarily having done that.
Did you scream and yell at your parents at times?
Oh, yeah, at times, sure.
You remember an episode where you really...
I might scream and yell at my mother, but then when father came home, that was heavyweight stuff. The father was always, well, wait till he gets home, you know. He's going to really take care of this. Oh, the fear of waiting until he came home and what was going to happen. And would he really come on really strong, or would he just kind of try to, you know, he'd had a rough day too. And so that was the fear.
Were you afraid of him?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of course, I went through the period in my teenage years, as every child does, where they just abhor their parents. You know, you just think your moms are a real dope. And you can't stand her because she's telling you that your bangs are hanging in your eyes, and why don't you cut them, and why are you wearing that, and please don't borrow Leslie's skirt again. You can't wear your friend's clothes. What if you ruin them and I have to pay for them? And you know, your mom's really picking on you and you think, oh, God, do I hate her. I got over that. And I'm an adult now, and I think my mom's a really neat lady.
I would become such good friends with the guys that I really wanted to go out with that there were times that it killed it right there, you know, because I became a buddy rather than a girl to take out. And then I sort of learned not to do that, to leave a little bit of mystery or whatever, you know, don't just always be there or whatever.
Hot Hero Sandwich will return after these messages.
We now return to Hot Hero Sandwich.
Were there secrets that you kept, that you had to keep from certain people in your fellowships or something?
Secrets. Probably.
Good.
Talk about boyfriends and girlfriends.
Lots of girlfriends, a couple of real close girlfriends, my friend Bunny Bennett and my friend Susie Green. Susie Green lived down the block. Her father was also a doctor. She lived in a really big house and had like 2 acres of lawn around her house, so it was always a thrill to go down there and play. She was adopted. That always fascinated me. Here was a little girl that was adopted, and yet her family was together, and she was happier and more well-adjusted than I was, so that was always interesting for me.
I was once in school, and I went to this junior high school, and I was out in the gym class, and I was doing Jerry Lewis gymnastics, you know, because I'd seen him do it in an Army movie. Yeah, you know, and I was doing that and having fun, and this one guy come up that really liked me, you know, he's playing football and stuff, and we were really going to be friends, you know. And later on that day in the hallway, I heard him talking to some guy. Said, "Did you see that crazy nigger man?" You know, and it just shocked me, you know. And I was standing behind him. He turned around. We just looked at each other, you know. I thought he liked me. You know? No, he didn't. So it hurt. Or I don't know if he really meant that. I thought maybe he might have had to do it too, for his peers. Do you know what I'm saying?
Hot Hero Sandwich will return after these messages. We now return to Hot Hero Sandwich.
I like to look nice, but I didn't know what fashion was. I'm not a fashion, even still. But I never was into clothes. I was saying before, I used to go Salvation Army or the Goodwill and get clothes and stuff like when you could go there and buy them. Now it's too expensive, you know, to go. But I used to buy suits there and wool suits that some rich man owned. That's what made it important to me. I was vicariously having a rich man suit on so I could have an attitude. You know.
Did the clothes affect how you felt?
Yeah. I think clothes do that. I mean, I think if you look nice, you feel nicer, too.
I went through stages of different weight, like a boxer. I was at one point very thin, and then I was very fat. I looked like a school bus at one point. That was fun. I think it all depended on how bored I was with what I was doing. And when I say bored, I don't mean, oh, darling, I'm so bored. I really wanted so much to get into acting and just sort of find out what was on the other side of the subway. That a lot of what I was doing seemed tentative, you know. And so I would find great comfort in Sara Lee cakes and things. No, I don't think I'll go swimming, so I'll eat a cheesecake. You know, it was that kind of thing.
I remember having on a sundress, and that was kind of loose in the front. And when I bent over my desk to do something, I remember some boys at my desk looked down the front of my dress and saw I had on like a little training bra or whatever it was. I remember them giggling and pointing and making fun, and I do remember that to be a very painful experience. And then by the time I got to high school and was wearing a very big bra size, I was determined that no one knew that I was so busty. So I rounded my shoulders. I always held my books in front of me. I always wore very large sweaters. And as a kid, it was really hard. I sympathize with any girl who's getting her breasts before her girlfriends, and if they continue to grow, it's absolutely horrifying, because when you're a child and when you're a teenager, the most you want to be is the same as everybody else that you go to school with. And when something makes you different and makes you stand out, it's really painful.
I had a high school basketball coach who was very effeminate. I didn't play basketball, but he was the basketball coach in my high school. My only contact with him was that he taught a physical sociology, I don't know what they called it, health course or something like that they used to call it. General health, you know, how to avoid getting athlete's foot and stuff like that, you know. And one day he got into masturbation, got into the subject of masturbation. And he said, I remember to this day, he said, you look around you and you'll see the ones who are doing that. They're the ones with kind of the puffy pink cheeks and the high voices and the limp wrists. But I just thought it was kind of strange that he was suggesting that we search out these people as people who are masturbating. That's the clue, you see. I didn't think that was right. I mean, I just didn't believe that. I didn't think it was true. Well, I wasn't passing a moral judgment. I just didn't think that was a fact. That's all. And it never bothered me.
Hot Hero Sandwich will return after these messages. We now return to Hot Hero Sandwich.
Could you read? I mean, I know you could read literally, but could you get yourself to sit and read, or just
history? I could. History I liked. The rest of it I didn't care too much for. The math, and it was too hard for me to interpret. Farmer Jones has 5 chickens and he sells 4 of them, but he gets 3 of them from somewhere else, and she lays eggs all the time, and you got to figure it out. It's just, I hated Farmer Jones.
By the time I graduated high school, all of my friends knew what they wanted to do, at least for the next year of their life. They were going to go to the University of Oregon, Oregon State, and all my girlfriends were going to join sororities, and they knew what they wanted. So my mother, trying to interest me in something, found an ad in a magazine with Raymond Burr's picture, Old Ironsides. And it said, you know, I studied at the Pasadena Playhouse, and you too can learn acting. Well, I had been in a couple of plays in high school and had been the lead actress in the 7th grade class play. And
won an award
somewhere? And won a little award, a little plaque that I still have that the boys made for me in shop in 7th grade. And so my mother, trying to interest me, said, you know, let's apply at this school and see if they'll take you. So I sent my grades and sent an application. And meantime, because I was so distraught and such an unhappy girl, my grandparents took me away to Norway to meet my relatives. And by the time I came home, I had been accepted at the Pasadena Playhouse.
I had a guidance counselor in high school that thought, when everybody was doing their college applications and all this kind of thing, you have to go to the guidance counselor and they talk to you about your colleges, your choices. And I put down 3 schools. And the 3 of them were all dramatic academies or institutions that catered to theatrics, to acting, to singing, whatever. They were really wonderful institutions, and I really thought about it and selected a couple and wanted some constructive feedback. Instead, I received such an opposite reaction of this is stupid and you're a dummy and don't do this and you can't believe how your life will be garbage, and I mean, just so hateful. And it became very grand, and I said, my dear woman, you know, you don't know what you're talking about. And I called her several names and walked out.
Did you really?
Yeah, I got angry.
What did you say?
Well, I told her that she had no right to be a guidance counselor and that she knew nothing about art, and someday when I accept an award I will go to her, and intend to do it still to this.
I'm going to read you a poem.
Okay.
I may not be the fastest, I may not be the tallest or the strongest. I may not be the best or the brightest. But one thing I can do better than anyone else, that is to be me, which is a poem that you wrote.
Well, finally, that's all you can do, isn't it? If you can do a good job of doing that, do a good job of being me, being yourself, that's really all I ask of myself. Because, as I said, I wasn't the fastest, and I wasn't the brightest, and whatever, you know.
And it took me a long time to find it to say one day, hey, here's who I am, and this is what I like, and this is what I'm going to be. I'm just going to be me. And hell with it. Take it or leave it.
That's a very big step.
Yeah.
You think a kid can take that kind of a step, or do you have to go through certain experiences, Richard, before you can do that?
You have to. You really have to go through the hell and the baptism of life. You just have to. You can be the smartest kid in your class. And you can be anything. I mean, the dumbest kid in your class. You can be the hero on the football team. You can play basketball. You can smoke cigarettes. You can drive a car. You can do it all, but it takes a long time for one day you decide, here's who I am. And some people never do it. It's a sad part. Some people never get to do it. But if you get to, and you grab it, hold on to that. Don't ever let that one go. When it comes to you, grab it and go with it.
Hot Hero Sandwich. We'll be back after these messages. Shh.